Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Kurama helped Naruto build his destiny with the Uchiha Heiress, Haku, and Hinata. Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. The village hidden the leaves Konohagakure, known as the strongest village in the elemental nations, known for its famous shinobi, near-perfect environment, kind and friendly citizens who are all prospering under the rule of the Sandaime Hokage, Heiress and Sarutobi. However, it was not always like this. For 12 years prior, catastrophe struck in the form of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. It seemingly appeared out of nowhere and started laying waste to the village and its citizens. It was only due to the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, sacrificing his life to defeat the beast did the village survive. A 12-year-old Naruto Uzumaki, clad in his usual attire of his orange jumpsuit and blue sandals, can be seen walking through the streets of Konoha with the villagers giving him a wide berth as if he were the plague-taken human form. Shoulders sagged, hands in his pockets and a near-dead look in his eyes, wondering to himself what he had done to be treated like this. Demon scum. Monster. Freak. The Sandaime should have finished what the fourth started. Don't worry, our next play session will lift your sour mood. Why don't you just die and save us the trouble? You see, for as long as he had been able to remember, the villagers would always treat him like dirt. They would do any and everything in their power to make his life miserable. From refusing him service in shops, parents telling their kids to ignore him, and the glares and harsh words they would always throw his way. But that was just they did to break him emotionally. Whenever they felt like it they would form mobs and chase him, and whenever they caught him they would not go easy on him. Everything from stabbing, burning, beating, electrocuting, any and everything they could think of to hurt him they would do it, and because they wanted his life to be his own personal hell, they would always leave him right at death's door, never pushing him through, knowing that he would heal so they can do it all over again. His voice cracked as he asked, why must my life be like this? He whispered to himself, hoping to find an answer. As he was walking by he failed to notice the person following him. Sayumi Uchiha, the heiress of the once feared but now near extinct Uchiha clan. During class at the academy that day she realized that something was off about the blonde. Now no one else knew this, but Sayumi was aware of how the villagers would shun and isolate the boy. She was curious as to why they would treat him this way, but the fact that he always seemed to just shrug it off and smile, made her even more curious. Why would he behave as if everything was alright? She asked herself this question many times before, but not once could she find an answer. So when she saw him today in such a downcast state, she knew she had to find out why he was like that, which led to her following him. Not realizing where his feet had taken him, he looked up to see that he was at the top of the Hokage monument. Without thinking he sat atop the Yondaime's head and let loose a torrent of tears that he had been holding back. Through teary eyes he saw the citizens of Konoha going about their lives without a care in the world, kids running around playing with friends, parents tending to their children, couples enjoying each other's company. All of this just served to deepen his depression. Why can't I have that? To have someone that worries about me, cares about me, someone to love me. Why must I be alone? Just a little ways behind him in the trees was Sayumi. Tears were threatening to spill out of her eyes, for she heard everything he said. He really is alone. But why? Why is he left to fend for himself? Why hasn't anyone tried to help him or at least try to befriend him? That is when she realized something. Why haven't I done so? Alone. That word rang aloud in his mind. Alone. Is that how I'm destined to live, unloved by no one? Flashback. He was sitting on a bench with his head down and his eyes closed, sobbing uncontrollably. He could hear people walking past and ignoring him as if he wasn't even there. One conversation he heard just made him cry even more. Mom, why is that boy over there alone and crying? The child asks. He could hear the mother snarl before giving her answer. It is because he is a bad person and he is crying because he knows that he is. But why is he alone? The child persisted. He is alone because bad people like him don't deserve to have people to care for them. The only thing people like him deserve is to be alone and unloved by anyone. And if I hear that you have interacted with that boy in any way, then you will be severely punished. Do I make myself clear, young lady? The mother finishes sternly. The little girl gulped and answered shakily, Hika-san. I promise that I won't. Good. Now let's go and leave him to his misery. After that he could hear them walking away. End flashback. Fully sobbing now and in a shaky voice he spoke, why? Please someone tell me, why am I unloved? Why don't I have parents, friends, anyone to care about me? Why must I go through life alone? In a sewer-like mindscape, a rather large and imposing figure shut its eyes tightly with a few tears escaping. I truly am sorry, Kit. Tears were now streaming down the Ravenette's face. He seems to have had it way worse than I have, but no more. I won't let him live like this anymore. She wiped her tears away and was about to make herself known when his next words stopped her. Life. He gave a mirthless chuckle and stood up, his face stained with tear streaks. He took another look at the village. What's the point of living if I'm just going to wake up to my own personal hell every day? Why don't you just die and save us the trouble? A small mirthless smile came to his face. Might as well, at least I won't have to live like this anymore. With that last thought he took what would be his final steps until he reached the edge of the Yondaime's head. With one last look at the setting sun and one final thought, goodbye, and I am sorry Ayame Nichan, Tsukijiji, recalling the father-daughter duo who were at least kind to him. The wind picked up and blew his hair backward while carrying away some of his tears. Old man, I'm sorry but I won't be taking that hat from you. With that final thought he let himself fall over the edge. But instead of feeling himself descend to his death, he felt a tug at his jacket as someone had caught him. Flashback. A few seconds earlier. Hearing his words, she started to fear for his life once she realized where this may be going. Her fears were proven once she saw him making his way to the edge of the mountain. Seeing this, her heart rate sped up and she quickly jumped out of the tree and ran up to him. Just as he leaned over the edge and began to descend, she managed to grab onto his jacket, saving his life. End flashback. With some effort she managed to pull him from over the cliff into safety. She then sat on the ground panting as her rush of adrenaline began to subside. She heard the sound of sniffles and looked up to see him on his knees. He was shaking as fresh tears streamed down his already tear-stained face. Why? He said through his sobs. Slowly going over to him, Sayumi asked, why what? Naruto. Why can't I find some peace? I'm tormented day in day out. Told that I'm a bad person even though I've done nothing wrong. They call me a demon, the devil, scum, even though I don't do anything to anybody. He said in between sniffles. Sayumi sat there listening to him and couldn't believe that the villagers would actually do that to a child. Whenever they feel like it they hunt me down and torture me for hours on end. They do any and everything they can to hurt me, and they always leave me within an inch of my life because they know that will heal so they can do it over and over again. And the worst part is that I don't even know why they do it. Whenever I ask them why, they just say that I am a demon and, he then gripped his head and screamed, ah. I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't go on living like this. So I decided that I would end it and finally have some peace. And when I do try to end it, I get stopped. It seems life itself wishes to see me suffer. He then wrapped his arms around himself tightly, as if trying to find some measure of comfort before he spoke in a small, vulnerable tone. I just want it to end. I just want the pain to go away. Please, please make it go away. He pleadingly finished. Sayumi was stunned by what she just learned. They would really do those things to him. And for something he doesn't even know about. I can't believe they would be so heartless as to drive him to suicide. Deciding to leave these questions for later with the goal in mind to find out why the villagers would treat him like that. She slowly approached him and gently rested her hand on his shoulder, making the boy flinch from the contact. She watched as he slowly raised his head and looked at her with bloodshot eyes. The ravenet then put on a kind smile before she spoke in a soft tone. I don't know why you have been treated in such a way, and I am sorry for not doing something to help you earlier. But if will you allow me, I can be that person to care for you, to worry about you, to love you. I can make it so you won't have to be alone anymore. You promise? He meekly asked, still smiling. Yes, Naruto, I promise. She nearly toppled over when Naruto slammed into her, wrapping his hands around her midsection and burying his head in her chest. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Not minding where he had his head, she patted his back and said, You're welcome, Naruto. A few minutes later she heard a faint snore coming from him. He fell asleep, she mused. But she was broken out of her musing by an approaching figure. It seems that this ordeal has finally taken its toll on him. The figure said before it was revealed to be the Sandaime. Sandaime-sama. The girl asked in surprise, What are you doing here? A small frown appeared on the aged leader's face. I am here because I saw what happened. And I am extremely ashamed that I let things get this far gone. Hanging his head in shame as he said that. You know why he is treated like this? She asked in an incredulous tone. His only response was a small nod. Shifting a bit so Naruto's head was on her lap, then why haven't you done something to help him? If I hadn't been following him you would be scraping him off the ground tomorrow, having killed himself because he couldn't deal with the shit the villagers put him through. Don't you care that a child has been tortured by the villagers repeatedly for something he doesn't know about? She finished rather heatedly. Despite the fact that she was speaking to her village leader in such a tone, he couldn't help but smile inwardly at how she is already ready to defend Naruto. Yes, I do care for him, very much so, and it kills me to see what this village has done to him. I have no excuse as to why I haven't been able to properly help him other than my responsibilities as Cage have taken a huge chunk of my time, but I seek to fix my errors. Raising his head and looking at the girl, so after he wakes up and calms down, could you bring him to the Hokage Tower tomorrow? It is high time he learns of his secret and for amends to be made. The girl nodded in response, sure. I'll stay with him tonight. The aged leader's face then took on a crestfallen expression. I am sorry to inform you, but his residence has been burned down. He told her in a grim tone. What? She exclaimed, nearly waking the sleeping boy. Some of the blinder residents of this village saw it fit to burn his apartment and have him live on the streets. Likely so he'd be an easier target. It is sad to say, but until I am able to find a proper residence for him, he is for the time being homeless. No, he isn't, she retorted. I have plenty of space where I live and I am more than willing to have him live with me. She tells him in a tone that bartered no argument. Hiruzen raised a brow at this. Are you sure about that? If the villagers learn of this they may turn their prejudice to you as well. I don't care, she heatedly replied. I may not know him well, but I know that no one deserves to go through life alone. She ran her hand through his spiky but surprisingly soft hair before speaking in a softer tone. He doesn't deserve to go through life alone. Her reply put a smile on the aged leader's face. He then discreetly signaled for the hidden agent to come out. In less than a second, an Anbu with gravity-defying silver hair was kneeling in front of the Sandaime. You called Hokage-sama. Yes, Inu. Naruto will be staying with Sayumi here from now on, so I want you to take them to the Uchiha mansion. After doing so, you are tasked with finding those responsible for the destruction of the boy's apartment. After apprehending the culprits, you are to bring them to Ibiki. Is that understood? Hi Hokage-sama. It will be done, he said before turning to the pair. Upon seeing the boy asleep in the girl's lap, he couldn't help but feel guilty. We really failed him, didn't we? Pushing his negative feelings to the side, he took the boy from the girl and put him on his shoulder before using his free to hold the girl's hand. Hold on now. Getting a nod from the girl, he then disappeared in a tornado of leaves. Now alone the Sandame looked at the spot where Naruto jumped from before frowning. I let things go too far. Minato, I'm sure you and Kushina are rolling in your graves for what this village has done to your son. He then turned and started to leave. As he did so he felt a surge of determination flow through his body and unknown to him, his next thoughts almost mirrored another beings in the village. I promise starting tomorrow, that I will make right by you Naruto, I promise Kit, I'll fix the damage I've done. Naruto's slumber would usually consist of nightmares, the actions of the villagers coming back to haunt him in his sleep. But not this time. This time he found himself in what seemed to be a dimly lit sewer. The ground was covered in water and with what seems to be pipes running along the floor as well the ceiling. Where am I? He looked around and saw that there was only one path. With no other option he decided to follow it and see where it led. After walking for a few minutes down the one-way path, he came to a large room with a gigantic set of gates and with what looked like a piece of paper that joined them. Finally decided to visit me, Kit. An unknown, very deep voice spoke. Naruto looked around in fright. Who said that? Come closer to the gates, the voice said. He realized that was where the voice was coming from. Why? How do I know you won't hurt me? He asked, feeling a little scared. Believe me, hurting you is the last thing I would ever do, the voice reassured. He felt a little safer, so he slowly and cautiously made his way toward the gates. The closer he got, the more he could make out what the figure looked like. The first thing he could make out were the eyes, large, red eyes with a black slit for pupils. Next thing were the teeth, large, long, pointed and presumably razor-sharp teeth. But what made him realize just what the figure was the body the previous features were attached to. A gigantic fox-like creature, with its upper body resembling that of a human's. It had red-orange fur and black fur around its eyes that stretched up to its large and long bunny-like ears. But what made him stop in his tracks and shake in terror, were the 9 tails swaying behind the beast. KKKK Kyuubi. He stuttered in fear as he unconsciously took a few steps back. Calm down Kit, I'm not gonna hurt you. The now identified Kyuubi tried to reassure. His words served little purpose, for the young boy promptly passed out from fright, right then and there. The beast chuckled at unintentionally scaring the child. He decided to wait for the kid to come to, which was about 10 minutes later. Naruto stirred awake and groggily got into a sitting position. Man, what a dream. I assure you, it was no dream. Naruto looked up and saw the Kyuubi once again. The color drained from his face. He was about to make a hasty retreat, but the beast stopped him before he could. Calm down. Like I said, I am not gonna hurt you. But why you're the Kyuubi? Why you laid waste to the V village 12 years ago? Why would I believe YUW won't do the same to me? I in fact how are why you even alive? The Yondaime K killed you. The beast heaved a weary sigh before answering, because not everything is as it seems. Huh, the boy gave out in confusion. What is that supposed to mean? I wasn't in control of my actions on the night I attacked. Someone managed to gain control of me after ripping me out of my previous Jinchuriki, sending me on a violent rampage which resulted in my defeat and eventual sealing. Naruto took a breath to calm himself, which also allowed him to think more clearly. He replayed what the beast said and he understood some of it, except Jinchuriki. Sealing. He then tilted his head in confusion. What does that have to do with you being here? A Jinchuriki, or power of human sacrifice, is an individual whose body is used as a container for a tailed beast, and sealing is the process that is used to make one. The beast explained. Okay, but that still doesn't explain why you are here. Come to think of it, the boy then looked around the room, where even is here? Where we are, Kit, is inside your mind. And the reason I am here is because you are my Jinchuriki. The beast said, dropping the proverbial bomb on the boy. Naruto's eyes widened and his mouth hung agape. What? He asked, not believing what he just heard. Yes, Kit. The night I was defeated, the Yondaime sealed me into you. A shocked and dreadful expression came over Naruto as that information sunk in. It all makes sense now. The hurtful words, harsh glares, unfair treatment, the torture. It's because they know that, he hung his head as tears began to flow down his cheeks. I really am a monster. No, you aren't, Kit. You are not me. You are my container, nothing more. The beast loudly stated. Then why seal a monster inside of me if I wasn't one myself? Why condemn me to the life of being treated as a monster if I wasn't one? Tell me why. Naruto collapsed to his knees, making the water splash and ripple around him. The reality of the situation had hit him like a wrecking ball. He went from being abused without an apparent reason, to learning that his body housed the very beast that almost wiped out the village just over a decade ago. The sobbing boy was trying and failing to wipe the torrent of tears from his eyes. Why would he do this to me? He asked in a low tone. Yondaime, I may respect you as a human and your heart may have been in the right place, but you severely lacked judgment when it came to the bigots you were protecting. If you could see him now, you would be ashamed of what this village has done to your son. Using one of his tails, he gently wrapped the appendage around the weeping boy and pulled him into the cage. Feeling the soft fur, Naruto clung to it and buried himself in it to find some measure of comfort. The beast brought the tail up to his face before releasing the boy, who quickly clung to the fur on his cheeks. I am sorry, Kit. It doesn't matter whether or not I was in control of my actions, I have caused you to have a bad hand in life. For over a decade you have been suffering the punishment for actions that you did not commit. On my honor as a tailed beast, I promise to do what I can to make your life better, and if you wish, I will also be willing to train you, to make you into someone these villagers will think twice about abusing. The great beast vowed. With the tears slowly subsiding and his face still buried in the kitsune's fur, the boy answered, I don't know yet. So much has happened in such a short time. I'll need some time to think it over before I can give you an answer. That is all I ask for. The beast replied. Naruto's body slowly started to fade. What's happening? He asked in fright. Calm down, you're just waking up, and don't be alarmed when you see your friend beside you. He told the boy. Friend? The boy asked in disbelief. The black-haired vixen that saved you. The beast answered. She is still there. I thought she would have gone already. The boy responded in genuine surprise. She is making good on her word. I'll contact you in the morning. Before the blonde could ask what the beast meant, he faded away completely from the mindscape. The beast let out a heavy sigh as he laid down to rest. As he was dozing off, visions of that night flashed through his mind that made him grit his teeth in anger. I promise that I'll make up for the suffering you endured, and make that bastard Uchiha pay for all he's done. Off to the side, he noticed two distinct chakra signatures flaring up and coming to life. About damn time you two woke up. When Inu brought the two to the Uchiha mansion, Sayumi showed him the room that Naruto could use, which was right across from hers. After placing the boy in the bed and tucking him in, he gave the slumbering boy one last remorseful look before he vanished in a tornado of leaves to carry out his secondary orders. After the Anbu left, Sayumi entertained the idea of sleeping beside him as a way to comfort him, but she decided against it. She wanted him to slowly grow accustomed to her, so him waking up and finding her beside him will likely startle him and make him uncomfortable around her. After about 2 hours, Sayumi was awakened by what sounded like crying. Recalling that Naruto was now staying with her, she wasted no time to get to his room. Upon letting herself in, She found him with tears streaming down his face and an iron grip on his covers. She got into bed beside him and took his head and cradled it in her lap. She then used a finger and gently wiped the tears from his eyes before running her hand through his hair while whispering soft words of reassurance to his still sleeping form. Slowly but surely the blonde relaxed and was no longer whimpering. Sometime later Naruto woke up and realized that he was on a bed in a room that wasn't his. His head was resting on something soft and comforting, but he knew that it wasn't a pillow. He looked up to see the black-haired girl that saved him and realized that his head was resting on her lap. Her head was laying on a pillow and she was seemingly asleep. Despite knowing that she wouldn't hear him, he gave her a small smile and muttered a tired, "Thank you," before relaxing and letting sleep claim him once more. If he had listened carefully, he would have heard the Ravenet answer with a low, "You're welcome." Rays of sunlight pierced through the darkness in Naruto's room and awoke the female occupant. She wiped the sleep from her eyes and gave out a low yawn. She took a gander down on her lap to find Naruto still sleeping but with a more peaceful expression than he had last night. A small smile appeared on her face and she leaned down and placed a small kiss on his forehead before she carefully repositioned him so he was now lying on the bed. Before leaving she took one more look at the boy and silently promised, "I may not know you as well as I should and I may not why they treat you the way they do, but I promise that I won't let anyone hurt you anymore." With her promise made she left the room to get washed up and ready for the day. Naruto was awakened some time later by a mouthwatering aroma. He got out of bed and groggily followed his nose to the source of the aroma. He unknowingly made his way to the kitchen where he found Sayumi and came to a complete stop. Given that he was never like those other boys at the academy who constantly chased after her, he's never taken chance to get a good look at her before. Standing at 5 feet 2, she had dark raven hair that reached just above the middle of her back, pale flawless skin and dark onyx eyes which were accentuated by her thick eyelashes that in turn complemented her heart-shaped face. Her outfit did a lot to accentuate her developing body. She was wearing a short, open-top navy blue kimono with a thin black obi holding it together. She had black chest binding for her developing chest, black wrist guards with the Uchiha emblem engraved on them, and for her lower body she was wearing black spats and black knee-high sandals. Naruto was dumbstruck by her beauty. Utsukushi was the first word that came to mind. Seems he's found his first crush, the beast mused. A pinkish red hue made its way onto the girl's cheeks. Why thank you, Naruto. Naruto covered his mouth upon realizing that he said that out loud. He then put his hand behind his head in a sheepish manner and awkwardly chuckled. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud. It's all right, I didn't mind. She answered with the blush still present on her face. She had been complimented about her beauty before, as if those horned dogs at the academy will ever stop with their cheap and sleazy attempts to get with her, but this is the first time she's ever heard someone compliment her so genuinely. Shaking those thoughts from her mind, the bathroom is down the hall and the second door on the left so you can wash up. There's a robe in there for you to use, so you can just put your jumpsuit in the trash when you're done. A question mark appeared over Naruto's head. Why, I can just get a change of clothes at my place. He asked with confusion in his tone. Sayumi felt stupid for not remembering beforehand. That's right, he doesn't know about his apartment yet. She knew that it'd better if he learned it now rather than later, so she took a breath and then informed him. I'm sorry Naruto, but your apartment was burnt down last night. What? He exclaimed. Hokage-sama informed me last night shortly after you passed out. He told me that some of the villagers wanted you out on the streets, so they burned your place down. Those who put it out unfortunately didn't manage to save anything. As she finished informing him, she couldn't help but feel bad. Upon hearing that everything he owned was destroyed, Naruto grit his teeth and squeezed his eyes shut to fight back the oncoming tears as well as the anger he was feeling. One of the only places where I could at least feel safe and they destroy it. It isn't enough that they torment me, they have to destroy everything I have too. He would have continued this train of thought if he didn't feel a sudden warmness envelope him. It's alright, Naruto. After he told me that, I told him that I had enough space to take you in, and that I wouldn't mind if you stayed with me, if you want to, that is. She trailed off at the end. Naruto broke the embrace and gave the girl a questioning look. Why? Why are you being so nice to me? You've never cared about me before, so why the change of heart? She knew he would ask that, so she decided to just be honest. The truth is, it isn't that I didn't care. I was somewhat aware of how the villagers would treat you. I did not know the full extent of what they had done to you, but I had an idea. That still doesn't explain why you're being so nice. Naruto interrupted. Let me finish, okay? She said and got a nod from him. I was confused as to why they were doing that, but what made me even more confused was your reaction to it all. She further explained. Naruto tilted his head and raised an eyebrow. My reaction? Your smile. You would always smile and laugh as if nothing had happened. So it came as a surprise to me when I saw you yesterday in such a downcast state, which was the complete opposite of your usual demeanor. When I saw that, I knew I had to find out why, which led to me following you. I was going to reveal myself to you on the mountain before you, well, you know. She finished explaining. That last part made him recall his ultimate moment of weakness, when he finally couldn't take it anymore and was willing to remove himself from this life to escape his pain. He hung his head in shame as his bangs overshadowed his eyes. I'm sorry that you had to see me like that. Dealing with so much hate is more bearable if I just pretend that nothing happened. He admitted. It's alright, Naruto. If not anything else, I know what it feels to act as if everything is okay when it's not. Her response got a somewhat surprised reaction from the boy. What do you mean? You're the heiress to the Uchiha clan, literally everyone in the village loves you. Heck, you're practically royalty. Why would you know what it feels like to hide pain? He asked in genuine bewilderment. At this question, Sayumi's head dropped, which caused her silky black locks to fall over eyes, casting a shadow over them. Yes, I am the heiress to the Uchiha clan. A clan where its only remaining member is standing in front of you. She answered while doing her best to keep her voice from cracking. With that statement, Naruto was quickly reminded that the Uchiha clan was massacred by one of their own, with the sole survivor being the girl standing in front of him. He instantly felt like kicking himself for asking what he believed to be an insensitive question. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ask something like that, it was Jew, he tried to explain but was cut off. It's okay, really. She said before quickly regaining her composure and changing the subject. Like I said, the bathroom is down the hall and the second door to the left. There is a robe for you to use and I'll have fresh clothes for you once you are finished. Okay, and thanks, he said before leaving to get cleaned up, though he still felt a little bad for what he said. No problem, Naruto, she answered before going back to finish breakfast. I have to say, you've got a pretty strong-willed vixen as a caretaker, Kit. The beast inwardly commented. After washing up and coming out in a black robe which fitted quite nicely, Sayumi pointed him to his room and told him that there were fresh clothes in there for him room. Upon entering the room, he found the clothes laid out on the bed. His new attire consisted of a black, high-collared, long-sleeved jacket that had the Uchiha emblem on the back and a red undershirt. For his lower body he had on a black Anbu-style pants as well as black sandals to finish his new look. While looking himself over in the mirror, he was contacted by his tenant. Good morning, Kit. Naruto spun around quickly only to find no one. Who's there? It's just me. The beast replied. Kyuubi? He asked out loud. No, it's Pennywise the dancing clown. The beast sarcastically answered. Who? The blonde asked with a question mark over his head. A sweat drop formed on the kitsune's brow. Never mind. I'm not in my mind right now, so how are you talking to me? He asked out loud. Firstly, you don't need to speak out loud, just speak in your mind when talking to me, people will think you're crazy otherwise. Secondly, you visiting me in the seal opened a telepathic link between us so I can talk to you without you being in here. Kyuubi answered. Well, that's good. Indeed. If you are here for your answer, then I'm sorry but I don't have it just yet. I'm still dealing with what I've learned in such a short time. To learn that I am housing one of the most powerful beings of all time in my body and that it was done by my personal hero, add the fact that someone I thought didn't care about me, is actually taking care of me. It's a lot to take in such a short time. The boy replied. Take the time you need. It's not like I'll be going anywhere, I'll be right here for whenever you need me. The beast states. Thanks Kyuubi, it means a lot that you're willing to help me. Don't mention it, Kit. Also drop the whole Kyuubi thing, my name is Kurama. Okay then. Thank you Kurama. By the way, I have to mention that I like your girlfriend, Kit. She's really taken to caring for you. Naruto's face went cherry red at that comment. She's not my girlfriend. Unfazed by the outburst, the beast dryly asked, is she a girl? Naruto nodded. Is she your friend? Well, she did save me, and she is willing to let me live here, so, yes, she is my friend. So is she not your girlfriend? Quote, quote. Naruto rubbed the back of his head while the blush was still present on his face. Well, in that sense, yeah, but. The beast gave a low chuckle before cutting the boy off. It's okay, I was just teasing. Thanks for embarrassing me, Furball. It was my pleasure, Kit. The beast answered cheekily. He then heard Sayumi call out, done yet? Yeah, he responded. Sayumi went into the room and looked him over. Those clothes look good on you. She complimented before a dejected look came over her face. Naruto noticed her down look and believed that he may have done something wrong. I'm sorry, did I? He began but was interrupted. No, it's okay, just some bad memories. Needing to change the subject, she motioned for them to go eat breakfast. Though the food's aroma was mouthwatering, it was a simple, typical morning breakfast which consisted of fried eggs, bacon, and toast. Naruto, who has never had a home-cooked meal before, was grateful. They chose to eat in silence since they hadn't eaten the previous night. After breakfast and doing the dishes which Naruto helped with, they went to the living room. Silence permeated the living room as they both made themselves comfortable on the couch. Neither were sure of what to say. A few more moments of silence passed before Naruto decided to ask, about earlier, when you said that you knew what it felt like to pretend that everything is alright when it isn't. What did you mean? Sayumi's head dropped a bit at his question and she released a sigh. Before Naruto could ask if she was okay, the girl started. Despite what you may know about me, being the Uchiha heiress, loved by everyone in the village, with pretty much every girl our age looking up to me and the boys chasing my tail. I'm still alone. Despite wanting to ask what she meant, he decided to keep quiet. After my clan was massacred, I fell into a deep depression. Despite being sent to the Yamanaka clan head for counseling, I still couldn't get over what happened. Tears were now forming in the corners of her eyes. I kept asking myself, why did he do it? Why did he kill everyone? My friends and my family, why did he kill them and leave me all alone? She closed her eyes as a few tears spilled out, a low choked sob escaped her lips. There were times where I wished that he had killed me too. At least that way I wouldn't have to bear the pain of losing everyone I loved, instead I'd be on the other side with them. She gave a small, bitter and mirthless chuckle as she said that. All those people, those sheep that we call villagers, they only see the Uchiha heiress, the tragic only survivor of a once great clan. None of them saw the real me, the scared little girl who only wanted someone to comfort her, to tell her that everything would be okay, someone who could take the loneliness away. She sighed before wiping away the stray tears from her eyes. When I realized that I would never get that, I put on a mask of indifference and apathy to act as if the death of my clan didn't affect me. Her eyes then took on an almost blank expression and her voice came out in a low, almost vulnerable tone. But on some nights, where the lonely silence and the memories of what happened would be too much for me. I've thought about just ending it and joining those I loved in the afterlife. I understand what she meant now. I never thought I'd actually feel sympathy for an Uchiha. Guess she is the exception. Her face then morphed into an angry expression and her voice became cold and bitter. But if I did die, then I wouldn't be able to achieve my ambition of killing the person responsible for my clan's demise. My brother, Itachi Uchiha. She said his name with so much venom you could practically hear the acid corroding it. Now that was a shocker for Naruto. He had learned that the Uchiha were wiped out by one of their own, but he never would have guessed that it was her own brother who did the deed. She realized what she said and quickly looked at Naruto before apologizing. Oh, I'm sorry about that, I didn't mean to ramble on. Naruto placed his hand on her shoulder. It's all right. I understand what you meant now. He then gave her shoulder a soft squeeze. I'm sorry that you've had such an unpleasant life. Guess life screwed both of over, huh? He said that part with a small chuckle and he saw that he managed to make her chuckle as well. He then gave her a small smile. But like you did for me, let me be the person that accepts you for you, to worry about you, to care and comfort you, let me be the one to take your loneliness away. Sayumi's eyes once again became misty upon hearing those words. You would really do that, for me? Naruto's smile never wavered. Yes. You are willing to do it for me, and after hearing that, there is no way I wouldn't do the same for you. After those words left his mouth, he had to steady himself or he would have fallen off the couch when Sayumi tackled him with a grateful hug. Tears of happiness flowed from the Ravenette's eyes and a smile made its way onto her face. Thank you. No problem, Sayumi, he responded. A smirk came to the muzzle of the ancient beast inside the seal. A blonde-haired boy comforting the troubled female. A vision of another blonde boy holding a redhead in a bridal carry flashed through the beast's mind. Like father, like son, I suppose. The beast mused with a small chuckle. After separating, they started to talk some more to get to know each other better. Same time, council chambers. When Hiruzen had gotten back to his office last night, he decided that enough was enough. Upon seeing what his mistakes have done to the poor boy, he decided that some much-needed action needed to take place. After going through his files and gathering the necessary documents, he had his Anbu inform the council members that there would be a meeting first thing the next day. This is where we now find him. At the head of the room was a large table that seated Hiruzen. In front of him were two long tables for each side of the council. On the right side was the Shinobi Council. This was made up of the clan heads, Inoichi Yamanaka, Shikaku Nara, Choza Akamichi, Sum Inazuka, Shibi Aburame and Hiyashi Hyuga. All of whom looked somewhat displeased at having to called so early, especially the Nara who kept muttering troublesome under his breath every few seconds. The left side housed the Civilian Council. This was made up of the more influential merchants and business owners of the village that mainly contributed to keeping the village running. At the very end of the room was another large table that had 3 seating positions. In the middle sat Danzo Shimura, on his left belonged to Homura Mitokado and on his right belonged to Kaharu Udatane. These are the elder advisors to the Hokage and his former teammates. Hiruzen started things off. Firstly, let me apologize for the rather abrupt meeting and the late hours at which you were notified. Everyone nodded in acknowledgement. Seeing this, Hiruzen continued. Now the reason I have called this meeting has to do with our resident Jinchuriki. As soon as those words left his mouth, groans of displeasure and disgust started to come from the civilians' side. What has that good-for-nothing demon done this time? Please tell me that we're ridding ourselves of that thing. More of these degrading comments would have been made had the Hokage not flooded the room with a dose of his killing intent. He then spoke in a low, threatening tone that bartered room for no argument. If I hear another comment like that, then there will be dire consequences. Am I understood? Quick and fearful nods from the civilians was the response he got. Hokage-sama, Sum spoke up, It's not that we don't like to see the pompous civilians get put in their place, but why are we here? She asked, earning herself some glares from the civilians. I will get into that shortly soon, but before I do, I am announcing that all members of the civilian council are now fired and shall be replaced. His announcement left the civilians in an uproar. You can't do that. This village is nothing without us. We will get this decision overturned. These and other words were thrown out before the Sandame silenced them with a spike of his key. He then looked at them with threatening gaze. Do remember who it is you're speaking to. As for the one who said that, I can't do this, I can and I will. He said before producing the documents he had taken with him. What I have here is proof that our esteemed council members have not been so esteemed in their actions. He then passed the documents for the elders and shinobi council to view. What those documents show are the proof of the shady and illegal activities that our now ex-council members have been involved in, siphoning money for their own agenda, paying bandits to destroy their competition, bribing my shinobi to turn a blind eye to their actions, as well as a plethora of other actions which revolve around Naruto, that I will not mention. Where did you get these documents, Hiruzen? They seem to have been collected over time given how detailed they are. Danzo pointed out. That is Hokage-sama to you, Danzo. He said, making the man flinch slightly under his gaze. My apologies, Hokage-sama. Danzo reluctantly corrected himself. Good. Hiruzen then turned his vision to the civilians who were sweating profusely at being caught. What exactly are you still doing here? He asked in a hardened tone. Before they could even attempt to answer, the Sandame directed his key solely onto them and gave them a simply two-worded order. Get out. All of them ran out of the ROM as if their lives depended on it. Ladies and gentlemen, clear the way, for the shinobi no kami has returned. Sume thought with a smirk, glad to finally have back the strong-willed leader that was lying dormant in the old man. Now that they are gone, let me get into what I called you all here for. Pardon me, Hokage-sama, but you didn't give a response as to how you obtained the documents damning our now ex-council members. Inoichi pointed out. Yes. Over the years I have had my Anbu keep a close eye on our now ex-council members, for I have never trusted that they wouldn't abuse their status. In addition to that, I also had them do some digging and gathering information just in case. At first I wasn't going to reveal their actions for I still believed that the village needed them. Then why the change of heart? Hiyashi asked. With a heavy sigh he continued, last night, the son of our greatest hero made an attempt on his own life by jumping off the Hokage monument. This piece of news gained shocked and terrified expressions from everyone sans the elders. Is the boy okay? Inoichi asked. Is he hurt? Sume asked feeling. They were stopped by the Sandame raising his hand. The boy is fortunately still alive. He was saved by a concerned classmate who was following him. Who was it that saved him? Shibi asked. Sayumi Uchiha. From what she told me, she had been observing him for some time and has seen how the villagers treat the boy. After his residence had been destroyed last night, she took it upon herself to give the boy a home. He is with her right now as we speak. He says with the clan heads breathing a sigh of relief. Danzo got up out of his seat and spoke. The vessel would have never been put in such a position if he had been given to me, to train him to be the weapon that our village requires. He then narrowed his eyes at the aged leader. I am asking again, Hiruzen, give the boy to me too, so that he may fulfill the purpose he was created for. His words coming out as more of a demand than a request. Absolutely not, Danzo. I know of your training methods. You strip your volunteers of all emotion and turn them into weapons no different than a kunai. Only meant to be used, discarded and replaced when it is of no more use. What you constantly fail to understand is that emotions are what separate us from the monsters out there who live by no morals nor ethics. His then spoke in a warning tone. Any more word on this from you or those two beside you and all three of you will have my undivided attention. Do I make myself clear? He warned, punctuating each word with a spike of ki. Crystal clear, Hokage-sama. Danzo almost growled in annoyance at being denied. I will have that boy as my weapon one day, whether you like it or not, you old fool. While I won't agree with having him go to our resident war hawk, Sum started earning herself a glare from the man in mention. I still believe he should have been allowed to be adopted by one of the clans and raised properly. Sum pointed out, which had the other clan heads agreeing. While I do agree that my prior decisions were indeed poor, and I have come to greatly regret them, there is nothing that can be done now except to accept my mistakes and do what I can to make amends, the old shadow admitted. Now that that is out of the way, what I have brought you here for is to have some measures put in place to make the boy's life better. How about a proper residence for the boy? Don't you think it is time for him to inherit his family home? Choza suggested, but Hiruzen had to decline. No matter how I would like to have him move in right now, he sadly cannot. Firstly, if he were to move into his parents' house, it would raise questions as to why he is living there. With how the village is now, they would call for his death for desecrating such a place with his presence, saying the word desecrating with as much sarcasm as he could muster. Even if he were to stay there in secret, it would still be too much of a responsibility for one boy to live and keep that place in good condition, and thirdly, the Uchiha heiress has already made it vehemently clear that the boy will be staying with her. It seems the pup has gotten himself a determined caretaker. Sum mused. That's one way of putting it. He chuckled, recalling how the girl was not taking no for an answer. Residence will not be an issue for him. What I want is to have certain things disbanded, such as the Kyubi festival. Kaharu quickly rose from her seat. Absolutely not. The Kyubi festival is used to celebrate the life of the Yondaime and the sacrifice he made to defeat the Kyubi. To disband it would be to spit in the face of our greatest hero. She defended. Your words may have had some value if that is what the villagers did when it came time for the festival. He retorted. What do you mean? She asked, trying to feign ignorance. Ever since that festival started, the villagers have used it as an excuse to hurt the boy. When he was just a baby, my Anbu had to incarcerate numerous civilians and even a few of their Anbu comrades who were after the boy's head, and it has only gotten worse over the years, with the boy being sent to the hospital on numerous occasions for life-threatening injuries. He then looked Kaharu dead in the eye and asked, now tell me, my advisor, if that isn't spitting on our greatest hero by abusing his legacy, then what is? He finished, effectively shutting the woman up. Hearing no retort, he continued, so effective immediately, the Kyubi festival is officially disbanded, and anyone caught trying to celebrate it will be imprisoned and heavily fined for their crime. He said, leaving no room for arguments. Another change will be to the academy. He said, getting everyone's attention. After sifting through the academy records last night, it has come to my attention that some of our academy instructors have seen it fit to sabotage one of our upcoming shinobi. This behavior is unacceptable, and will be one of the changes made. He asked rhetorically. Sir, if I may. Shikaku spoke up. Yes, Shikaku. Hiruzen acknowledged. You say that there will be a few changes to the academy. What I want to know is how they would affect those already enrolled there. He asked, wanting to know since his son is going there. There is nothing to fear. Aside from a few layoffs and some rehiring, the only real change is that one of the remaining instructors, being Iruka Yumino, will be assigned specifically to help Naruto. He informed them. But Hokage-sama, that is favoritism right there. One of the very things you have spoken against. Homura spoke up. With a raised eyebrow, Hiruzen asked. How is it favoritism when no other instructor is willing to help the boy? The only thing I am doing is assigning him a personal tutor. Hiruzen reasoned. If you want the boy to be properly trained, then I say that you hand him over to Da. Homura tried to say, but was immediately cut off by a concentrated dose of ki. Care to finish that statement, Councilman Homura? Hiruzen asked in a dangerous tone. No Hokage-sama. Homura stuttered before taking his seat. Good. Now that is all I have to inform you of. If there is nothing else to be discussed, then this meeting is adjourned. Now if you will excuse me, I have a few businesses to straighten out today, he stated before leaving the room. The fuming elders soon followed, all three feeling very displeased with the turn of events. As the clan heads were leaving, the one with white pupil-less eyes thought to himself, it seems things are starting to look up for you, Naruto-san, it's just a pity that it took this long. Back at the Uchiha mansion, the two had just finished sharing their lives with each other. Sayumi told him about her life before the massacre. Her mother, Makoto Uchiha, was a kind and loving woman who would always have time for her children, but could also be firm and strict when she needed to be. She told him how her mother would be the one to temper her father, Fugaku Uchiha's, rather overly traditional take on being a parent. Fugaku would always push his children to become stronger while not taking their emotional growth into account. His focus was almost always on Itachi since he was Fugaku's heir and a boy at that. This led to him mostly ignoring Sayumi and only giving her any attention when Itachi was away. And then there was Itachi Uchiha, the clan slayer himself. Even saying his name made her anger flare up. She told him how she idolized her brother, how he was everything she aspired to be, strong, loyal, courageous, humble and respectful. Really, she could go on and on about why she had looked up to him. Despite not being around much and always flicking her forehead and then saying, maybe later, he would always be there for her when she needed him and would even stand up to their father when he was being too harsh on her. With that knowledge, Naruto had a better understanding as to why Itachi's actions left such a strong negative impact on her. To know that the person you looked up to, idolized, aspired to be like, killed every single member of your family and clan, and only left you with revenge to live for, it would mess anyone up. It also left him with another question, but he decided not to ask now. As tears trickled out of her eyes after she finished explaining, she felt a hand touch her shoulder. She looked to see Naruto, who was giving her a sympathetic look. I may not know what it is like to have or to even lose something like that, but I do know that despite what he did to you, you should not let him be the center of your life. Don't let the anger and hatred you feel for him be what drives you, for even if you do manage to get you vengeance, you'll just be left without a purpose in the end. The boy's words rang true for the girl and she gave him a nod of understanding. He then gave her his signature foxy smile. Besides, you have me to live for now, you can't exactly do it with that attitude. She wiped the tears from her eyes and responded, hi. Feeling better after his little speech. After that, he then started to tell her about himself. He told her about his likes, which included the old manor, Gigi, which she learned as what he called the Hokage, the duo who ran the Ichiraku ramen shop since they were always nice to him since he was a kid, the ramen they make, the Hokage monument, and how he liked to go atop the Yondaimes because it was always comforting for him. He then went on to tell her how he liked to train to improve himself so he could protect those he cared about and how she was now at the top of that list. That last part got a tiny blush out of the girl. Sayumi then asked him what his life in the village was really like. He was very hesitant about answering her at first, but with some prodding from Sayumi and some reassuring words from Kurama, he told her. He told her that the reason why he always wore those jumpsuits was because it was the only thing the shop and store owners would sell him, and at ridiculously high prices. It was the same with his choice of food. Despite his love for ramen, he knew that he shouldn't eat so much of it, but once again the shop and store owners would screw him over by only selling him food that was expired or straight up rotten, and even then it was overpriced. They were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't realize that they had talked into the afternoon. That's when Sayumi remembered the Sandame's request. Oh, I nearly forgot. Hokage-sama wanted me to bring you to see him today. What for? He asked, though he reasoned it may have to do with yesterday's events. It's about yesterday. He said that it's time for you to learn about some secret, as well to make amends. Naruto froze upon hearing that, as he realized the implications. He knew. He knew the whole time and didn't tell me. He was about to go on a mental rant, but it was cut short by Kurama. Stop and listen up, Kit. The old shadow may have lied to you, but think for a moment, there must have been a reason for it. Whether he had a reason or not doesn't excuse him from lying to me. While I can agree, the vixen has told us that the old shadow wishes to tell you the secret now, which to be honest isn't much of a secret anymore. So that must mean that he has seen where he went wrong. Okay, I am willing to go and hear him out, but no promises on not getting upset. Fine by me. As the conversation ended, Naruto noticed a hand was being waved in front of his face. Naruto, Naruto, are you hearing me? Naruto shook his head and then rubbed the back of it sheepishly. Sorry, I zoned out for a bit there. Okay, don't do that again, you had me worried. Now come on, let's go. She then took his hand, which had the effect of making the boy's face heat up, before pulling him towards the door. After locking up, the duo began their trek to the Hokage Tower. As they were walking along, they started to notice the looks they were getting from the populace. Most were glaring daggers at the boy, while others were giving curious stares, as if they were wondering why Sayumi was with him. Where did that piece of shit get those clothes? And why is he with the Uchiha heiress? Damn monster is trying to corrupt her. We have to get him away from her. We can't let him corrupt her good soul. Those and other hurtful words were hurled at the blonde. Sayumi was silently fuming as she heard these degrading comments. She turned to Naruto and saw that he had an impassive look on his face. How do you do it? To go through this day in, day out and not go insane? Naruto sighed and stuffed his hands into the jacket pockets. When you go through the same thing every day, you learn to AAAAH. Naruto screamed and hunched over in pain as he clutched his now bleeding forehead. Cluttering in front of him was the stone that had hit him. Ha! Direct hit. A middle-aged male civilian cheered. Naruto. Sayumi called out, but before she could assist him, someone grabbed her hand and was pulling her away from him. Let me go, she told the man as she struggled against his strong grip. Listen, Uchiha-sama, that boy is nothing but a good-for-nothing demon. We are only doing what is necessary to keep you from being corrupted by that vile creature. The man said. Upon hearing this, Sayumi grit her teeth in anger and reared her foot back and then. Crack. The man fell to the ground holding his busted jewels and his screams were coming out several pitches higher. Sayumi paid no mind to this and quickly made her way over to the bleeding boy. Are you okay, Naruto? Yeah, I'll be fine. While the wound was slowly closing, he could still feel the lingering pain. Sayumi turned around with cold fury in her eyes. When the villagers caught sight of this, they winced and unconsciously took a step back. Listen up and listen well. She then pointed to Naruto. This boy, Naruto, he is with me now, and I am not gonna stand by and let you pieces of crap keep abusing him for your own sick pleasure. She glared daggers at them, and for the briefest of moments, her eyes flashed crimson red with a single tomo before reverting to normal. So unless you want your permanent place of residence to be the hospital or better yet, the morgue, you will keep your abusive actions to yourselves. I understood. But Uchiha-sama, you have to understand that this boy is a demon. He is no good, nothing but a vile creature who only means to corrupt you to his evil ways. We are only doing what is necessary to keep his evil at bay. Another villager tried to defend. The only ones I see trying to corrupt me are the bigots in front of me. Tell me, if he were a demon, then why hasn't he fought back against your abuse? Why did he just take it instead of lashing out? Let me tell you why. It's because all this time all you have been doing is torturing a child who's too scared to fight back. If he is what it means to be a demon, then I will gladly take being a demon over being a bigoted human any day. She then to Naruto's hand, you people make me sick. If any of you try to hurt him again, my earlier threat will become reality. She said before she turned on her heel and left with Naruto. Naruto for his part was feeling stunned. Not once had anyone actually stood up for him and defended him against the villagers. He had felt happy when Sayumi promised to take care of him, but for her to protect him like this made him tear up in joy at truly having someone there for him. Seeing the teary-eyed boy, Sayumi quickly asked, "Are you feeling okay? Are you still feeling the hit?" Hearing her worry over him so much made him feel even happier. He wiped his tears and muttered, "No one has ever stood up for me before. Thank you." She gave him a sweet smile. "No problem, Naruto." With that they finished their journey to the Hokage office. Upon reaching the tower they went straight inside and up to the office. The secretary glared at Naruto but she backed off when Sayumi threw her own glare at her. After coughing to regain her composure she ushered them inside saying that the Sandaime was expecting them. Inside the office waiting for them was Hiruzen Sarutobi, known to many as the Professor or the Shinobi no Kami, but these days he is simply known as the Sandaime Hokage. After his meeting this morning, he had visited a few of the major shopping businesses in Konoha and straight up threatened them with foreclosure should they continue to pull the same crap with Naruto. It is safe to say that Naruto's days of shopping were about to be far easier. All morning he had been dreading this upcoming conversation, not because he was afraid of telling the boy the overdue truth, but because he knew that there was a high chance of the young man losing faith and trust in him. Consequences aside, he knew that he had to do what needed to be done. "Hey old man," Naruto greeted, though it was not as loud and exuberant as it usually was. A change that Hiruzen took note of. "Good afternoon to you as well, Naruto-kun." He then turned his attention to Sayumi. "Thank you for bringing him here, please take a seat." "It was no problem, Hokage-sama. You said that you had something to share with him concerning why the villagers despises him. I'd like to know as well, for they seem adamant in their beliefs that he's a demon or some other stupid thing like that." Naruto's body went rigid upon hearing this. Despite his joy at finally having someone in his life to care about him, that joy also came with the fear that she'd leave once she learned about Kurama. Neither Sayumi nor Hiruzen missed his reaction. "Yes, well, I shall begin. But first." He stopped and went through a few hand seals and the room momentarily glowed before going back to normal. "What just happened?" Naruto asked. "Nothing to worry about, Naruto-kun. Just making sure that no unauthorized ears listens in on our conversation," he explained. "Okay, but what about that guy in the corner?" he asked. The exposed agent made a dash to escape but was stopped by a kunai to the head thrown by Hiruzen. The old man took a look at the blank mask, or more specifically the kanji for "nay" that was on it. "So your organization is still in operation." He was about to call his hidden Anbu to retrieve the body for information, but it burst into flames and in a few seconds it was nothing but ashes. "Self-cremation. The lengths you go to erase your tracks," he thought with a narrowed gaze. "What just happened?" the kids asked collectively. "Nothing of concern to you two. For the time being, it's just a minor annoyance," he quickly responded. "Oh, okay," they answered, though they were slightly shaken about seeing someone be killed in front of them. "Anyway, as I told Sayumi, which I am sure she told you, Naruto, I've brought you here for you to learn something that shouldn't have been kept from you for so long. But first," Hiruzen bowed his head and spoke, "I ask you to forgive this foolish old man." "Forgive you for what?" he asked, even though he pretty much knew why already. "For I have deceived you, Naruto. I do in fact know why you are treated so badly," the old man admitted. You lied to me," Naruto exclaimed, getting up out of his seat. Despite already knowing the truth, the old man's deception still cut him deep. While this reaction did startle Sayumi, it did not faze Sarutobi, for he was expecting it. His eyes narrowed as he glared daggers at the aged leader. His hands balled into fists at his side and he spoke in a low tone that barely restrained the anger and hurt he was feeling. "I trusted you, old man. If I didn't trust anyone else in this damn village, then I knew for sure that I trusted you, and you broke that." Hiruzen felt guilt stab at his heart upon hearing those words. Do you have any idea what it is like for me to carry the hate of nearly everyone in this village? Every damn day since I could remember they've been treating me like trash, treat me as if I shouldn't breathe the same air they do. Even on the way here one of them saw it fit to take their abuse out on me. He then turned his head and pointed to bits of dried blood on the side of his face. Hiruzen hung his head in shame, while Sayumi had a different thought. Now that I think about it, what happened to that cut? And all I wanted to know was, why? Why were they doing those things to me? Why did they treat me like that? But you wouldn't tell me. It left me to think that I did something to them that I just couldn't remember, that maybe I was in fact a bad person. He then felt something warm grip his hand and give it a soft squeeze. Turning around he saw that it was Sayumi. He saw how worried she was, so he calmed down before he returned his attention to the sandaime. In a more neutral tone he spoke, I've said all of that to say this, my trust in you is fragile right now, old man. Maybe if I had known, things would have changed, maybe not, but at the very least I would have known. With his piece said he sat back down, his hand still holding on to Sayumi's. Hiruzen heaved a heavy sigh as his past transgressions against the boy were coming back full force. I completely understand, Naruto. What I did was wrong and I hope that in the future that I will be able to regain your trust. He then looked at Sayumi. I have no words to express how grateful I am for what you have done for him thus far. Though she wasn't pleased that the man had apparently lied to Naruto and has also broken his trust, she still nodded to acknowledge his words, but she added a small glare to it to show that she wasn't pleased. Hiruzen saw this and understood her reaction. He then began his explanation. It was the same explanation that Kurama had told him about the attack, sans the part about him being controlled. He also explained that the reason why no one of his generation knew the truth was because he had passed a law stating that under the penalty of death, no one is allowed to speak about the Kyuubi nor were they allowed to tell the younger generation. He stated that this was in an effort to give Naruto a normal life. However, the villagers were determined to make the boy's life miserable, so they found a loophole. Instead of telling their kids about the Kyuubi, they would tell them that he was a bad person and that they were to not interact with him. They were also told to harm him at any chance they got. I understand what you tried to do, old man, and I can't blame you for not telling anyone from my generation. But what I want to know is, why you didn't tell me? Naruto clarified. The reason I didn't tell you, Naruto, was because I knew that a day would come where I would inevitably have to inform you of your burden. I wished for you to have a normal childhood for as long as possible until that day arrived. He bowed his head in shame. I hope you can forgive this old man for his mistakes. While I don't like that you lied to me and kept me in the dark for so long, I can understand your reasons, no matter how much they may have backfired. He said that part with a small chuckle, so while I don't exactly like it, I am willing to give you another chance. Thank you, Naruto. I promise that I won't fail you again. Hiruzen assured. Naruto. He heard Sayumi call. He turned to look at and found her looking at him. The disbelief was plain on her face. Is what he said true? All of it? Naruto knew he couldn't lie to her. He diverted his eyes and responded with, yes, Sayumi. All of it is true. Naruto. Hiruzen called. Lift up your shirt and channel chakra to your stomach. Naruto did as he was told. As the chakra built up in his stomach, the seal containing the biju faded into existence. Naruto stopped the flow of chakra to his stomach and allowed his shirt to fall. He then gave her a pained look of acceptance and said, I will understand if you want nothing to do with me any. He was interrupted by Sayumi grabbing him and pulling him into a hug. Don't you ever think that, Naruto, not ever, do you hear me? She told him in a stern tone. Whether you have a giant nine-tailed beast sealed inside of you or not makes no difference to me. You are Naruto Uzumaki, the person I promised to take care of. So don't get it in your head that I'll leave just because of an overgrown furry mutt. A tick mark appeared on Kurama's brow. Hey. I resent that. You're stuck with me, got that? Naruto didn't respond right away. His eyes became misty before the dam broke and a few tears spilled over. A small smile came to his face, for he was honestly ready to let her go had she turned out like the rest of the village and started to hate him for something out of his control. He wrapped his arms around her as more tears of joy streamed down his face, for he knew now that she would always be with him. Yeah, I got it. He answered in a low tone. Thank you, Oni-san. Oni-san, huh? A smile appeared on Sayumi's face. I could get used to that. Hiruzen sat back in his chair and admired the scene. You seem to be in very good hands, my boy. It's only a shame that it took this long. They broke the hug and sat back in their seats. Seeing that he once again had their attention, he continued his explanation. He told them how he had disbanded the Kyuubi festival, as well how he will no longer have a hard time when it comes to shopping and the new role that Iruka will be playing. So because I do not trust any of the other instructors at the academy, Iruka will be assigned specifically to help you. Finally, the blonde boy cheered. It was about time he got a fair chance. After this, Naruto couldn't help but feel a little guilty. The old man confessed and made up for his wrongdoings, but he is still holding on to the fact that he has made contact with the beast. Tell them. The voice of the beast spoke. You think I should? Yes. Despite getting up in his years, the old shadow is still a logical person and will understand if we explain it right, and the vixen has already accepted you, overgrown furry mud and all. So you have nothing to fear should you tell them that you've contacted me. Naruto took a deep breath and made his decision. Okay, I'll do it. Old man, Sayumi, there's something I have to tell you. Naruto said, gaining intrigued expressions them. The truth is that I've already made contact with the Kyuubi. He confessed. What? They exclaimed in surprise. Yes, I made contact with him last night. Naruto further revealed. What happened? Hiruzen asked with a slightly narrowed gaze. Naruto then recounted his encounter with the beast down to the very last detail. He also told them how he and Kyuubi now have a telepathic link and that the beast can speak to him at pretty much any time by using it. I don't know what to say, Naruto, that all sounded so surreal. Sayumi commented. That it does. To learn that the great Kyuubi no Kitsune that nearly destroyed the village 12 years ago, was not acting on its own accord and was actually being controlled. It's a hard pill to swallow. Hiruzen added. The only hidden Anbu in the room couldn't agree more. Kyuubi, I don't think that they're gonna believe me. They will. They just need a first-hand experience. The beast replied. First-hand experience? He asked in a confused tone. What do you mean by that? Tell the old shadow to get one of his mind walkers in here. Why? It'll be easier for him to believe me if the words come from my mouth. With you speaking for me, he's likely thinking that I'm manipulating you. Naruto mentally nodded. Good point. Old man, could you call one of your mind walkers? Kyuubis would rather speak to you in person rather than to speak through me, for you're likely thinking that he's manipulating me. Hiruzen decided that was the best course of action. With his Anbu operative gone to fetch the individual, it only took a few minutes for him to arrive. Walking into the room was a blonde-haired middle-aged man wearing the standard Konoha Jonin uniform. You called, Hokage-sama? The man asked. Yes, Inoichi-san. You are to take us into this young man's mind as well as to provide assistance with your interrogation skills. There are some things that need to be verified, the Hokage explained. The now identified Inoichi raised an eyebrow. Interrogation skills? If I may ask, who will I be interrogating? His tenant. Was the answer he got. Now that was a scary thought. He knew who, or rather what his leader was referring to. To come face to face with such a being sent a shudder down the man's spine. Are you sure, Hokage-sama? Yes. Is there a problem, Inoichi-san? The aged leader asked. No, sir. He quickly replied. An order was order, so he was obligated to follow it. He suppressed his fear and mentally prepared himself for what he was about to do. He looked around the room and took note of the Uchiha heiress. He then faced Hiruzen and asked, "Everyone, Hokage-sama?" "Yes. She already knows." The old man replied. He looked at Sayumi from the corner of his eye and saw her nod in affirmation. "Okay. To get started, I'll need Sayumi and you Hokage-sama to stand behind Naruto on either side and put a hand on his shoulder." They complied with his instructions. He then stood in front of them and looked at Naruto. "Are you ready?" Getting a nod from the boy, he then went through the necessary hand seals and placed his palm on the boy's forehead. Yamanaka style. Ninja art. Mind tour jutsu. The party of four felt a pull at their minds, and the next thing they knew they were standing in a dimly lit tunnel with ankle-deep water. "Well, we're here." Naruto started. "Follow me, the fur ball is this way." The party of four walked down the one-way path and coming to the large room with the all-too-familiar gates. Three of the four were starting to feel nervous at the realization of whom they were about to meet. Behind the gates, Kyuubi was laying down with his head resting on his forelegs. "Took you all long enough. Any longer and I'd think you were related to Slowpoke." The beast spoke in a laid-back tone. The three guests inside the boy's mind felt some of their fear alleviated by the beast's casual demeanor. "Now that you're not all ready to shit yourselves, let's get started. I thought it best to speak to you all face to face, that way you don't think I'm manipulating the kid here." The beast gestured to Naruto. "And since I'm already talking to you," he then looked at Naruto, "would you mind changing this place? It's a little too cramped in here and I'd rather not talk in a sewer." Naruto looked at the beast with confusion. "Oh, okay. How would I do that?" "It is your mind, Kit. All you have to do is think it and it will happen." Kurama explained. "Alright, let's see what I can make." He closed his eyes and began to concentrate. A few seconds later, the sewer started to distort and change. The water along the ground was replaced by lush green grass. The surrounding area that was empty before morphed into a forest with trees large enough to dwarf even the mighty Kyuubi. At one end, a magnificent waterfall erupted from the ground and crystal clear water began to pour from its peak and into the large lake below. The sky above that was once dark, lit up from the sun that was now shining above, bringing a pristine look to the boy's creation. The three other human occupants were amazed at the paradise Naruto had just created. "Wow!" Sayumi gave out in admiration. "Wow indeed," Hiruzen added, with Inoichi nodding in agreement. "I have to give you your props, Kit. That's some imagination you got." The beast complimented before he lazily laid down under one of the trees and enjoyed the feel of the grass beneath him. The cage that once held him was gone and in its place was a silver, diamond-shaped, studded earring with the kanji for seal engraved on it in gold letters, that was now on his left ear. Naruto nonchalantly waved off the praise. "Yeah, whatever." Kyuubi then looked to the two adults in the room. "Well, let's get started, shall we?" Agreeing with the beast, the Hokage and Jonin walked up to him and proceeded with their interrogation. Off to the side, Sayumi was coming to terms with the events so far. Never in her life would she have thought that saving Naruto would have led to all this, gaining someone to accept and care about her, learning of his life and his burden, finding out that his burden was actually innocent, to actually meeting the beast inside her now surrogate brother's head. It all felt so surreal and she half expected to wake up anytime now and that all of this would be a dream. But if it was all just a dream, then she'd lose Naruto. Nope, not happening, she thought as she shook that thought from her mind. She looked at the ongoing interrogation and couldn't help but think of the lies she learned at the academy. The Kyuubi from the books was completely different from the Kyuubi she was looking at. Instead of being a bloodthirsty beast hell-bent on destruction, he was, from what she witnessed, pretty docile and laid back, and despite having the clear chance to attack his interrogators, he was just lying there and answering each question as if he was bored. "Well, Hokage-sama, we've asked him everything we can think of to see if it has been lying or has ulterior motives. It seems he is telling the truth and that he was truly being controlled the night of the attack." Inoichi stated. Hiruzen pinched the bridge of his nose as he could feel a headache on the horizon. If all of that is true, then that means that the Kyuubi was just a pawn in a larger scheme. Deciding to leave that train of thought for another time, he turned to give his gratitude to the beast. It seems that we can trust you, Kyuubi-san. I'd like to give you my gratitude for being there for Naruto, even if he didn't know it at the time. He wouldn't have needed me if he had been able to defend himself, but that's about to change. The beast then turned his gaze to Naruto. What say you, Kit? I'll agree to it only if you help Sayumi as well. The boy responded while taking said girl's hand in his own. Sayumi looked at her surrogate brother with confusion on her face. What are you talking about, Naruto? Help me with what? Well, the old fur ball offered to train me so I could get stronger to protect myself. I didn't agree at first, but now I'm agreeing only if he agrees to help you as well. The boy explained. He then looked back at Kyuubi and asked, so will you, Kurama? Question marks appeared over the others' heads. Kurama. Oh yeah, Naruto started. That's the fur ball's name, he said while pointing a thumb at the beast. So Kurama? He asked. Done. A smirk then came to the beast's muzzle. That's if she doesn't mind being trained by an overgrown furry mutt, that is. Sayumi went cherry red in the face from embarrassment and sputtered out a quick apology. Hold up. I am lost here. What is happening? Hiruzen asked in confusion with an equally confused Inoichi behind him. What is going to happen is that I'll be taking over the kid's training and education from now on. We both know that the academy instructors aren't going to do shit to help him, and I refuse to have a vessel that can't defend himself. The beast answered. But Iru, was all Hiruzen got out before Kurama interrupted. One good academy teacher is not going to erase the ones who seek to sabotage him. I will applaud you for taking the necessary steps in that area, but the fact still remains, I am more capable of bringing him to a more desired level. Hiruzen realized that he couldn't dispute the claim, but he still felt the need to ask. Are you sure that you are up for the task? I mean, there is a lot to cover before they can graduate and earn the right to become ninjas of this village. Hiruzen pointed out, and immediately felt stupid for it. A sweat drop formed on the beast's brow and his face took on a deadpan expression. Hokage-sama, how do I put this? I've been around for more than 10,000 years, and I've picked up a thing or two about the shinobi arts in that time. So I'm pretty sure that I can help the kid. He then glanced at Sayumi, and his girlfriend too. He finished with a teasing smirk. The two kids looked at each other, then at their connected hands before they both turned cherry red and comically separated like a cheesy romantic comedy. Both adults and the beast couldn't help but chuckle at their reaction. A flustered Naruto glared at them before looking at Kurama. How many times do I have to tell you, she is not my girlfriend? Is she not a girl? The beast started. Can it? Furball. The boy said with a throbbing tick mark on his forehead. Inoichi and Hiruzen had to cover their mouths to keep from full-blown laughter. The flustered Sayumi walked up to the ancient kitsune and gave a bow. I thank you for accepting Naruto and I as your students, Kurama-san. No problem, Vixen. Can't have you being weaker than your knight in shining armor, now can we? This only served to deepen both the kids' blush. You know, if you two get any redder you'll start to look like ripe tomatoes. The beast pressed on. Again their blushes intensified. Hiruzen decided to spare them from becoming glow in the dark. Well, thank you again, Kurama-san. If there is anything I can assist with, just let me know. With the beast giving a nod of acknowledgement, Hiruzen asked Inoichi to end the technique. A few seconds later, the party of four regained consciousness in the real world. Hiruzen retook his seat and the kids did the same. I thank you for your assistance, Inoichi-san. I am sure that it goes without saying that what you experienced this day is classified. Hi, Hokage-sama. The Jonin responded. Good. You are now dismissed. With a bow, Inoichi took his leave. With Inoichi gone, Hiruzen turned his attention to the pre-teen seated in front of him. Today has turned out better than I had expected, to be honest. If there is nothing else to discuss, then you two are free to go and enjoy the rest of your day. Sayumi was about to make a move, but Naruto spoke up. Actually, Hokage-sama, there was something else that I wished to speak to you about. Sayumi raised an eyebrow at this. Since when does he use the proper title? Hiruzen, on the other hand, was genuinely intrigued. He realized that it must be serious for the young man to actually use his title. Of course, Naruto-kun. What is it you wish to speak of? Sayumi's eyes widened upon hearing his response. It has to do with Itachi Uchiha. Hiruzen was honestly startled at the topic the boy wanted to speak of. Why do you want to speak about Itachi, Naruto? That's what I wanna know. Sayumi added in a somewhat displeased tone. Naruto sighed and hung his head a bit. He knew that Itachi was a sore topic for Sayumi, so he would have been surprised if she wasn't a little displeased that he had brought him up. It has to do with what you told me about him this morning, as well as what he did. Something just wasn't sitting right with me. He then gave her an apologetic look. I'm sorry that I didn't bring it up to you first. With what happened, I didn't think it was the right time. Despite still being displeased, she gave him a nod of understanding. What did you want to know, Naruto? Hiruzen asked, feeling very curious about what the young man had to say. You're the Hokage, so you would know everything about what happened to Itachi and his clan, right? The young man started, being sure to emphasize the word everything. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow at this question and grew even more intrigued. Yes. Then I will ask, did Itachi really kill his clan for the reason he told Sayumi, or was there another reason? His question drew surprised reactions from the other occupants in the room, both in view and hidden. About time you brought that up. Kurama remarked. You know why I didn't. Naruto responded. What do you mean, Naruto? He told me himself that he only did it to test his limits. So what other reason could he have possibly had for wiping them out? The heiress asked, feeling very perplexed by the question. It was the way you spoke of him. He started, gaining a confused look from the girl. You described him as loving, caring and loyal. But before I go any further, let me confirm it with you, Hokage-sama. Naruto said, gaining the man's attention. Was Itachi a loyal shinobi? Hiruzen really wanted to lie and end this conversation here and now before it went any further, but he saw how serious Naruto was about this. He spared a glance at Sayumi and he could see the pain this situation brought on her. With an inward nod to himself, he decided to be honest to at least give the girl some peace. Yes, Naruto. Itachi was one of my best and most trusted subordinates. I will be the first to vouch for him and his loyalty to myself and this village. Naruto responded with a nod before turning to Sayumi. So for him to be the person you described him to be, right up until the massacre where he did a complete 180 in personality, tells me that there is more to what happened than what we know. Why would someone so devoted to his family and village commit the ultimate betrayal of butchering his own clan for the selfish reason of wanting to test himself? As Naruto finished speaking, he could see that his words had gotten through to Sayumi and that she was seriously thinking over what happened. But he could also see the amount of pain that his question dug up for her. He placed a hand on her shoulder and gave it a small squeeze of comfort he felt when she flinched at the contact. I'm sorry for bringing up past memories. I just felt that you should get the truth about what happened to your family. He told her in soft tone. Sayumi looked at him with small droplets of tears at the corner of her eyes and nodded in understanding. Both turned to look at the Sandaime and they could see that he was in deep contemplation. His face slightly twitched and contorted, as if he was having an inner dispute. You've made some good points there, Kit. The beast piped up before taking notice of the aged leader's seemingly inner conflict. And it seems that the old shadow knows what really happened. Think so? No, so. Something like that doesn't just happen with the Hokage ignorant to what really went down. Kurama remarked. Sayumi had gone over Naruto's words and she couldn't find any holes in what he said. When she thought about the Itachi from the night of the massacre and then compared it to the Itachi that she grew up with, it was like night and day, and she couldn't make sense out of any of it. She looked at her leader and she could see his inner conflict as well, some beads of sweat on his brow. It's as if he's nervous. Does he really know what happened? Hiruzen looked up at them and asked, even though he already knew the answer. Neither of you are leaving without an explanation, are you? No. This has to do with Sayumi's family. She's already helped me a ton within the little time I've gotten to know her. The very least I could do to repay her, is to help her get the truth about what happened to her family. The boy answered with conviction. Hiruzen accepted this answer and then looked at Sayumi. He could see how confused and conflicted she was. He could see her looking at him, almost as if she were pleading for him to give her an answer. Knowing what he must do, he covertly signaled to his hidden operative that what he was about to hear is classified information. I had really hoped Itachi would have been the one to tell her the truth. Before I tell you, I need both of you give me your word that what I am about to disclose will not leave this office. Both pre-teens looked at each other, then back at Hiruzen and nodded. Hiruzen looked between the two before taking a breath and begun his explanation. He started by explaining the decline in the Uchiha's standing among the village. Even though they were one of the founding clans, they were never fully trusted. When Lord Second came into power, their standing declined even further. He told them that the Nadaime knew about the true nature behind the Uchiha's bloodline and how dangerous just one of them can be, much more an entire clan of them. So as a way to make peace with the clan and have the village benefit from them at the same time, he placed the Uchiha in charge of the military police force. The Uchiha were content with this, but what they did not know was that this was a way for the Nadaime to keep them isolated and under surveillance, so should the need arise, he'd be able to better deal with them if necessary. Fast forward and the Kyuubi attack happened. Many survivors claimed to have seen the Sharingan in the Kyuubi's eyes during its rampage, and it was due to these claims during the aftermath that suspicions arose against the clan, leaving many to believe that they were in fact behind the attack. The Uchihas vehemently denied all accusations against them, but because of the long-standing mistrust, the claim of the Sharingan in the Biju's eyes as well as the known fact that the Uchiha's bloodline is capable of controlling such beings, no one truly believed them. This only led to widening the gap between the clan and the village. Now came the part that he was dreading. The massacre was not used to test his limits as he told Sayumi. It was in fact an unsanctioned mission that he carried out. 3 sets of eyes widened in shock upon hearing that news. What? Sayumi yelled in outrage. You mean to tell me that I lost my entire clan because you ordered it? She said while pointing a finger at the aged leader. Before she could say anything else, she felt something grip her hand. Looking around, she saw that it was Naruto. Sayumi, let's hear his full explanation first before we start pointing fingers. Just like with me, he may have had a good reason to do what he did. Sayumi could see the concern Naruto's eyes held for her, so she grit her teeth and sat back down to fully hear the old man out. Thank you, Naruto. He then continued his explanation. He informed them that Sayumi's clan was planning a coup d'état because they had become sick and tired of the treatment they were receiving from the village. Hiruzen had tried to negotiate with them to try find some way to resolve this peacefully, but he had failed. After that, he admitted to entertaining the idea of removing the clan, or more specifically, those who were seeking to revolt. While he was doing this, his former teammates turned advisors, went behind his back and ordered Itachi to remove the clan in its entirety. He then corrected Sayumi and told her that even though her brother did carry out a mission, it was not sanctioned by him, therefore making the mission null and void and the actions of his advisors treacherous. If the mission was illegal, then why did Aniki agree to do it? Sayumi asked. The other occupants of the room didn't miss the way she addressed Itachi. That reason was you, Sayumi. Hiruzen answered, much to the girl's surprise. He then explained that they twisted Itachi's arm by telling him that with or without him, the massacre would take place. So Itachi agreed only under the condition that Sayumi be spared, stating that she was innocent and he wanted his Imouto to be able to live a full life. His wish was granted. After that, well, as they say, the rest is history. Hiruzen finished his explanation and sat back in his chair, to allow them to properly interpret what they just learned. Naruto couldn't remove the look of disbelief from his face. They would really go as far as to wipe out an entire clan, just to save their own skins. I understand the situation, but they didn't have to kill everyone. What about those that weren't a part of it? What about the kids? They didn't have to die. You would be surprised at how vile humans can be. They call us Biju, monsters, when their actions are 100 times more heinous than anything we ever would do. The more he thought about it, the more the actions of the elders angered and disgusted him. I still can't belie, his words died in his throat when he saw Sayumi. She was just sitting there, dead silent. Her eyes were blank and didn't betray anything she may have been feeling. But on the inside it was a different story. A storm of emotions was raging on inside her. Disbelief that her clan would actually do something like that, anger and hate for the bastards who forced her Aniki to kill her family, grief over the loved ones that were taken from her. But the emotion that was the most prominent, however, was shame. Her brother sacrificed everything he had for her and left her with a chance to make a new life. And what does she do? Make it her life's ambition to kill him. Some little sister I am. Granted, she didn't know the full details of what happened until now, but that did little to make her feel better. Tears dripped from her eyes as the shame of her former ambition started to eat away at her. He should have just killed me too. I don't deserve what he did for me. She clenched her eyes shut and hung her head as more tears flowed freely down her face. So immersed in her distress, she flinched when Naruto wrapped his arms around her and pulled her into a hug. Without thinking, she wrapped her arms around him and buried her head in his chest. I can only imagine how much this has hurt you, and while I am unable to read minds, I can tell what you are feeling. You feel ashamed and unworthy. Ashamed of what you had wanted to do to him. He felt her arms tighten around him, and you feel unworthy of what he did for you because of that. She slowly nodded her head in his chest. I'll tell you something that I know, and it's something that you know as well. He broke the hug and planted his hands square on her shoulders before looking directly in her eyes. He loved you. He loved you enough to beg for your life to be spared and to give you a chance to start anew, despite how hard he was about to make it. He then put on his signature goofy grin. So buck up, and don't let his sacrifice be in vain. I know that it'll be hard, but hey, that's what I'm here for, right? Besides, he's still alive, isn't he? I don't see a reason why we can't bring him back and clear his name. Sayumi wiped the tears from her eyes, a small smile now present on her face. She accepted Naruto's words and decided to honor her brother by not dwelling on what happened and instead decided to focus on moving forward, despite how difficult it will be. Thank you, Naruto. Naruto kept his grin and answered, hee, as I said, that's what I'm here for. Hiruzen felt a surge of pride at how Naruto handled that. He could almost see the man that he will grow up to be, loved by those close to him and respected by those against him. You are going to go far, my boy. I just hope that I'll be around to see it. The hidden agent couldn't help but feel the same. He really is your son, sensei. Nice work calming the vixen down, Kit. Keep this up and I won't have to tease you. The beast thought. I know that it was a lot to take in, but I assure that it's nothing but the truth. Hiruzen reaffirmed. We know, old man, but why didn't you do something about your advisors? You yourself said that what they did was treacherous, so why are they still around? The blonde asked with a little heat in his tone. I had no physical proof to oust them for their treachery, only the word of her brother, who is now an S-ranked missing nin. I tasked my Anbu with locating any proof which could be used against them, but they were unsuccessful. While my word does carry weight and it would cast a light of suspicion over them, but without any actual proof, it wouldn't take long for me to look incompetent at doing my job and would highly likely see me be removed from office. The old man sighed. What's worse is that they used you two against me to get their way. What? Both kids exclaimed. Do you recall the ninja you weeded out earlier, Naruto-kun? Hiruzen asked the young man. Naruto responded with a slow nod. The one who owns those ninja runs a program that I had thought he had shut down under my orders, but it is obvious that it is still in operation. I won't go into any details, but know that this program is not one you'd want to be a part of. They threatened to have both of you taken and put in this program unless I halted my investigations into them. I wasn't about to relent, but then they also threatened to have me removed from office, and that way they could do whatever they wanted. I couldn't put it to chance on whether or not they were bluffing, so in the end I relented only on the condition that they leave both of you alone. He finished. Who are these people? Sayumi asked with an edge in her voice. Hiruzen closed his eyes and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Danzo Shimura, Homura Mitokado and Kaharu Udatane. Kurama, when can we start training? Naruto asked. What brought this on? Something tells me that exposing these for what they've done and clearing Itachi's name isn't going to be easy. So if we're gonna do that, we'll need to be strong. So when can we start training? I like the fire kid, but one step at a time. First, if I am going to be training you both, I will need to project my consciousness out of this seal, but that can be easily done provided you learn the technique. The beast answered. What technique? All in time. But for now, it's best if you take your vixen and head out. She's gonna need some time to fully contemplate everything she just learned, and she'll need you there for support. How many Naruto started, but was cut off. You might as well get used to it, Kit. I have no intention referring to her as anything else. The beast answered cheekily. Grumbling about cheeky foxes, he conceded and told the old man that they'll be going now and that they won't tell anyone about this conversation. Dropping the barriers, the Hokage bid them goodbye before leaning back and sighing once again. He's been doing that a lot lately. I understand why you didn't tell him of his connection to Minato-sensei, but don't you think you should have at least informed him of his connection to Jiraiya-sama? A voice asked. With how emotional today has been, with him learning of his secret and Sayumi-chan learning about the true fate of her clan, to add anything else would be too much for them in one day. Besides, she'll need Naruto for support, and it won't do any good if he's in the same state as her. The hidden agent nodded in understanding. Understood, Hokage-sama. With his hand still around her shoulder, Naruto leads Sayumi back to the mansion in silence. There were the few passers-by who were curious about Sayumi's state and were also blaming Naruto for it. Idiots. Naruto for his part did not pay this any mind and was only focused on getting the quiet black-haired girl home. Reaching home, he led her to the living room where he sat her down. Never breaking the embrace, he waited for her to speak first. He did not have to wait long. My clan was planning a coup, because they felt wronged by the villagers' treatment towards them. I did not even realize that something was wrong, everyone seemed okay. I did not hear anyone complain of where our clan was placed, I just thought that this is where we always were. I did not know we were purposely isolated. I just thought everything was okay. She said, her voice cracking every now and then. I was so blind. She suddenly screamed, I should have seen it, I should have realized that something was wrong. Maybe I could have done something, maybe my brother wouldn't have done what he did. My family would still be here with me, alive and not killed because of some cowardly old bastards. Those bastards had everyone killed, not just those responsible for the coup, everyone, both guilty and innocent, and then they made my brother the sole villain for the act when they're the ones who ordered it. I'll make them pay. While she ranted and let her emotions out, Naruto just sat there and held her while slowly rubbing her back to provide whatever comfort he could. He knew that she needed to let them out now, or else they would just pile up until she couldn't bear them any longer. His breakdown on the mountain was proof of what that could do to a person. They were there for about an hour before her rants died down and she started to snore. She fell asleep, he commented. He slowly and carefully scooped the girl up in a bridal carry and walked to her room. When he went inside, he gently set her down on the bed before removing her sandals and tucked her in. He was about to leave when he felt a grip on his jacket. Turning around, he saw that it was Sayumi. Her eyes were red and puffy, a sign of how drained she was. Please, stay. I don't want to be alone right now, she begged in a low, whispered tone. Hearing those words, there was no way he was leaving. He responded with a quiet, okay, before he took off his sandals as well as his jacket and got into the bed. Sayumi immediately latched on to him and buried her head in his chest. Naruto wrapped his arms around her and gently rubbed her back. It was a few more minutes before he felt her breath even out and she once again fell asleep. He reached down and brushed a few strands of hair out of the sleeping girl's face. Good night, Oni-san. A few minutes later he followed her into a peaceful sleep. Naruto awoke a little too early the next morning. He looked over at his bedmate and found her cuddled up to him with a content expression on her face. He leaned back on his pillow and allowed his hand to trace the silky black locks of the heiress. It wasn't long before sleep once again claimed him. A few rays of light peeked through the curtains in the room and struck the ravinet in her eyes. This caused her to wake up with a yawn before she sat up in the bed and stretched out all the kinks. She felt better, lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off her. She turned her head and saw Naruto, who was still sleeping, and smiled. She was glad that he was there, for only Kami knows what would have happened had he not been there. She leaned down and placed a chaste kiss on cheek, as a thank you for what he did. She then got out of bed and went to the bathroom to clean up. Naruto awoke about half an hour later. He got up and stretched but noticed that something was off. There wasn't a weight on his chest. He realized that Sayumi wasn't there, but then a scent coming from the kitchen caught his attention. Oh, she must have gotten up already. Deciding that he had stayed in bed long enough, he got up and went to clean up for the day. After washing up, he got dressed in a black tank top and red shorts with the Uchiha emblem on the sides. He got them from the closet in his room, which he learned used to belong to Itachi. He walked into the kitchen to see Sayumi at the stove in a red, low-cut t-shirt and a white skirt. Morning, Oni-san. You have got to teach me how to cook one of these days. It ain't fair that you're the only one who can cook like that. Naruto joked as he took a seat at the table. Sayumi smiled at the use of the term he now used for her. I'll be sure to do that, my Odoto. Breakfast will be ready in a few minutes. As they sat and ate breakfast, which consisted of rice, grilled fishes, miso soup and Japanese-styled omelets, Sayumi decided to give Naruto her gratitude. Naruto, I want to thank you for what you did for me yesterday and last night. It really means a lot to me that you were there when I needed it. Ma Oni-san, there's no need for that. I'm your Odoto now. It's in my job description to be there for you, he said, not making a big deal out of it. Sayumi smiled at his words. I guess so. Over breakfast she told him of her new goal to bring her brother back and clear his name, as well as her secondary goal of getting justice on the ones responsible for what happened, those being the Sandame's advisors. Naruto agreed to help her with her goal in any way he could. She was grateful for this, but she also felt a little selfish. Here was the boy, now her surrogate brother, who shared his life with her, listened to her and comforted her when she needed it. And now he was willing to help her with her life's goals. She had to do something for him in return. Is there anything you'd want help with? She asked. Well, you are willing to help me with my life goals. I thought it was only fair for me to help you do the same thing. She explained. Oh, well, I always wanted to be Hokage. It was my dream to finally be accepted by the village, and I figured that being Hokage was the easiest way to do that. He started, but after yesterday I realized something. I don't need an entire village to accept me. I have the old man Ichiraku, Ayame Nichan, and now I have you. All of you are precious to me, and it is for that reason why I want to become strong enough to protect you all. He declared. Don't get me wrong, I still wanna be Cage, but that's more along the lines of a bonus more than anything else. A pink hue adorned the girl's face once she heard that his main goal was to protect those he treasured the most. It made her feel special to know that she was one of these persons. That's a really high goal you set for yourself, Ototo. It's not gonna be easy to reach. It wouldn't be me if it was easy. The boy joked. I guess that's true. She responded with a small chuckle. But now that I know your goal, you can count on me to help you with it. Thanks, Oni-san. Kit. Kurama. Naruto said out loud. Yeah, it's me. Are you and the Vixen serious about training with me? Naruto already knew his answer, but he still relayed the question to Sayumi and got a firm nod in response. Good. But if we are going to do this, then we'll have to get a training ground to use. Finish your breakfast and get going to the Hokage Tower. The old shadow should have somewhere we can use. All right, came the collective response. They both finished their meals in record time and quickly did the dishes before getting ready to leave. They changed into copies of the clothes they wore the previous day and locked up before making their way to the Hokage Tower. It was early morning, so there were not a lot of people out at that time, but the few that were out made it clear that the presence of the duo did not please them. There were the usual glares and murmurs that were aimed at the boy, but with his keen hearing, he picked up one more than a few of those murmurs being aimed at Sayumi as well. Naruto knew that he was the reason for this change, so he decided to walk a little further away from the girl, but was immediately stopped when said girl grabbed his hand and pulled him back beside her. What do you think you're doing? She asked while giving him a small glare. I saw how they were glaring at you and I heard what they were saying. I knew that it was because of me, so he paused for a few seconds before continuing, I just didn't want you to go through the same crap that I do. He may no longer care what the villagers thought of him, but he still cared about what they may do to those he cared about. I appreciate your concern, but I don't care what those bigots want to do. She then spoke loud enough for said bigots to hear. If they want to glare, talk bad about me or call me names, then that is their problem, not mine. The only person whose opinion I care about is walking right beside me. She finished with a smile. The bigoted villagers silently sneered at her words, but kept their thoughts to themselves. Naruto felt his face heat up at her words. To play it off, he closed his eyes and rubbed the back of his head. Thanks. No problem, Ototo, she replied. After that they continued their walk to the tower, not realizing that they were still holding hands, but a certain fox did. You really struck gold with her, Kit. They walked up to the office and was ushered inside by the secretary, who was more respectful this time around. When they entered, they found the old man doing some paperwork and was silently grumbling about the arduous task. Upon seeing his visitors, Hiruzen quickly dismissed his hidden Anbu before putting up a silencing barrier. Good morning, kids. I hope that you two are doing better today. Looking mostly at Sayumi when he said that. We're fine, old man, though we were wondering if you could help us out with something. Naruto asked. How may I be of assistance? Kit, let's switch places so I can talk to him. Kurama suggested. Okay. How do we do that? Just don't resist when you feel my presence overtake you. Okay. He answered, feeling a little anxious. In the span of a few seconds, Naruto's eyes glazed over before his cerulean eyes were replaced with red eyes with black slits and his whisker marks darkened. Now we can talk. Kurama. Where is Naruto? Hiruzen asked in surprise. Don't worry, we just switched places so I could talk to you. Seeing the man nod, he continued. Anyway, we came here to see if there were any training fields we could use. It needs to be secluded so we can have total privacy while I'm training them. Hiruzen rubbed his goatee in thought for a few moments. There's one training ground that meets your requirements and hasn't been used in a long time, but before I tell you, I believe that I should at least have one of my Anbu operatives oversee the training, just in case something goes wrong. With all due respect, old shadow. With what I have in mind, there will be no need for supervision. Besides, I would rather have the fact that I am training them be kept between us. Kurama countered. Kurama saw the reluctance in the old man's eyes, so he decided to throw something in to sweeten the deal, so to speak. How about this? In exchange for allowing us to use this training ground with no supervision, I give you the secret to taking down your greatest foe. The paperwork. Faster than Naruto could say ramen. Done. The quick response startled Sayumi and had Kurama snickering. Hiruzen quickly pointed out where the training grounds were. After that, he then demanded his compensation. 2 words: old shadow. Kage Bunshin. Kurama wished he had a camera to capture the stupefied look on Hiruzen's face. He then receded to the seal and relinquished control over Naruto's body. Being back in the driver's seat, Naruto shook off the odd feeling of not being in control of his body. That felt weird. Well, later, old man, Naruto called out as he took Sayumi's hand and left the office. So that's why Minato always boasted about the paperwork not being a problem. That blonde knew the entire time and didn't tell me. He then shrugged. Well, no use complaining now. He quickly made 3 clones. When the smoke cleared, he found his clones looking at him with deadpan expressions. Well, don't just stand there. He clapped his hands. Get to work, chop chop. With his grumbling clones doing his task, he leaned back in his chair and pulled out a familiar green book, flipped through a few of the pages and started to giggle. Oh Yukio, you naughty girl. Naruto and Sayumi were walking along a path that was behind the Hokage monument and cut through a forest. A few more minutes of walking and they came to their destination. They couldn't help but stop and admire the place. The training field was a large open space with green luscious grass covering the entirety of it, and it was surrounded by a thick green forest. At the far end of the training field was a huge waterfall that emptied into an equally huge lake. All in all, the field was breathtaking. Yes, this will definitely work. The beast then narrowed his eyes in curiosity. But there's something way too familiar about it. They walked onto the training field and Kyuubi spoke to Naruto. Okay kid, for this to work you'll have to learn the Kage Bunshin technique. That's the same technique you mentioned to Gigi. What is it? It's a technique that creates a solid, physical replica of yourself. In other words, you're creating another you. Aside from giving you an extra ally in battle, whatever this clone learns and or experiences is transferred back to you whenever it is dispelled. Cool. But how will that help you? How this helps me, is that by channeling my chakra when the clone is being created, I can force part of my consciousness into it, essentially creating a clone of myself, albeit in a different body. The beast explained. Tell the vixen to go enjoy herself for the time being until you get the technique down, shouldn't take too long. Oni-san, Naruto called. Getting the girl's attention, the fur ball says to go and enjoy yourself until I learn the technique. Will let him out to teach us. What technique is that? She asked. Naruto then re-explained what Kurama told him. Oh, okay, good luck and call me when you're ready. She said before she walked off to look around. For the next 2 hours Kyuubi instructed Naruto on how to do the technique. It took him about an hour and a half to get it down, plus another half hour for Kurama to finally be able to take control of one. Now that's more like it. The cubified clone said while flexing the new body. Not as good as my own body, but it will do for training. Go rest up for a bit, I'll call you when I'm ready. The beast said as he took off, set up a few things.